her slide back. Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone. We are Regina Sieglin, Nardia Cumberbatch, and Beth King. I'm Regina, and we're from Valencia College in Orlando at the West Campus Library, and we're going to be presenting on a fairly new project that we have started this year called the Technology Petting Zoo. So the mission and goals of the Technology Petting Zoo, essentially what we want to do is give students an opportunity to access technology that they may not otherwise have the ability to come in contact with, and to be able to do that in a low-stakes environment. So in other words, instead of having to register for a class where they will have to pay tuition and be graded, this is an opportunity to explore technology in a way that is free and open. They can come to the library and engage with it, and yeah. So it's open technology in a low-stakes environment. We also want to be able to showcase technology that students at Valencia are either using or even developing in some of their classes. And we want to be able to facilitate discussion about technology across the curriculum. The learning outcomes for this are, again, to allow students the opportunity to engage with technology, to allow them to explore potential career possibilities that they may never have envisioned for themselves. For example, careers in IT or in engineering or some of those STEM fields. And of course, to be able to engage with the library.
So of course we needed funding to do this, and we got our funding initially from a student development grant. Student development at the West Campus was doing what they called the We Are West initiative, and they were going to give $2,000 to each division. They were looking for innovative ideas, and they also had to be things that would be open to all students because, of course, it was coming from student development. So from them, we got the funding to get basically the infrastructure for the Tech Petting Zoo. So we have some whiteboards, rolling whiteboards that we can use to demarcate the area and to also to write things up and allow the students to write things up. We have a table. We have some holders for iPads, so if we want to display something on an iPad and just leave it out, it attaches to the table. So the funding for all of that came from this student development grant that we were able to get. Now for the actual technology, we are using our materials budget. So all of the funding for the devices that we've actually purchased has come from that materials budget. And so here you can see a picture of our actual setup. You can see the whiteboards there in the background. You can see the table with our Kiva blocks there. And this is a listing of the different equipment and devices that we've purchased for the Tech Petting Zoo. So we've got everything from Sphero to Kiva blocks. We've got a quadcopter. We've got Google Cardboard. So I'm going to continue to the next slide, and we'll tell you about each of those. And I'm going to let Nardia take it from here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nardia. So this slide features our Sphero and Makey Makey, both of which were original products in our Tech Petting Zoo. They were purchased to showcase our computer programming skills for students who wanted an introduction into computer programming. Each tool could be used as is, with just a basic software download, so you could download an app and use the product. Or the student could program their own apps. So one of the cool things about Makey Makey, you can actually see the other side of it, actually lets you do some Arduino programming on it. Two of our circulation staff members were very intrigued by these products and made some fun activities to help present them. For example, Kendall, who's a skilled piano player, showed our students how to play chopsticks using Play-Doh as a conducer for the Makey Makey. So he used it as a piano. The other one was Miranda. She was able to showcase her creativity and her ability to design. She actually designed a 3D maze out of some of our old book boxes, the cardboard that our books come in. And she showed students how to use one of our iPads to drive the Sphero ball through the maze. And I'm going to showcase the next tools that we have. So the Mindwave and Kiva are also part of our original Tech Petting Zoo that we had last semester. The Kiva planks stay in the Tech Petting Zoo area all day. This resource connects students with engineering and architectural experiences. As seen in the previous slide, students have been using our Kiva blocks to express their design skills, challenge friends in competitions, or just get together and design with their friends. And some of the students have been using them as mental breaks. So for example, at the end of the semester, we tell them you can take a mental break by just designing something creative. As for the Mindwave, this product was purchased as with EEG software, not EEG software, to measure EEG. It connects with biology and health science courses. Unfortunately, the Mindwave has not been as successful as our other products because it requires you to purchase apps in order to use it. And so far, everything that we've been doing, we've been using free apps. Students have been interested in it, however, because of the research that's been shared about Mindwave. So for example, there's been research out there of children with ADHD using the program and using Mindwave. So basically the program uses a brain fitness training app to guide children through mindfulness and attention to detail activities. So that's one of the things that was shared, and a lot of students were interested in that app, downloading and purchasing that app to use it with the Mindwave.
Okay, this is Regina again. I'll tell you a little bit about two additional devices that we have. The Ampy Move is something that you see on the right-hand side. This is actually a charger that works through physical action. So you create the charge in the Ampy by shaking it up and down. For example, if you're walking or jogging, you can attach it to your belt clip or in an armband, and it will generate a charge based on the motion that you are creating, and then you can plug in a device to the Ampy and charge it. So it was purchased to kind of tie in with sustainability concepts that are dealt with across disciplines at the college, and also has a lot to do with some of our engineering topics, as well as simply a practical device that students might be able to use to actually charge their own devices. On the left-hand side, you see the new quadcopter that we have, which is a very small-sized drone, small enough to be under the FAA limits so that it did not need to be registered. It's really more of a toy drone, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But the quadcopter is one of our new devices that we have that we've just recently acquired. And the Cubelets this is a modular robotics system. So this, again, is another one of our new devices. We have not circulated this yet, but each cube in the set can perform a specific task, such as a sensor or locomotion, and when you put them together, you can create a robot that can accomplish different sorts of tasks.
Hi everyone, this is Nadia. I'm showcasing our virtual reality gear. So we have three of them. We have 2 Google Cardboard and 1 Samsung VR, Gear VR. They're our newest edition, added this semester. Yesterday I had the pleasure of visiting a biology class so that they can use our virtual reality tools as part of their actual lesson. So prior to my visit, students were engaged in a lesson on how cells use DNA to create protein chains. So the biology professor wanted to introduce the class to a YouTube video called From DNA to Protein 3D. Basically, this video is a 3D video that's available free on YouTube. It's about 2 minutes long, and students were able to use the Google Cardboard to watch the video. Unfortunately, only one student had a Samsung phone, and the Samsung VR only connects to the Samsung phone. The other part about that was that our Wi-Fi access in the class was limited, so he wasn't actually able to get onto the Samsung product. But fortunately, the student did have his own virtual reality headset that he shared with his classmates. We actually did think this was a successful engagement with students. The professor and the students enjoyed the experience, and they were all curious about how they could purchase their own, and now the professor is actually interested in purchasing a class set of Google Cardboards for her class.
And it's Beth again, back to talk to you about our events. So of course, when we got all of these different devices, we knew we were going to have to do some things to promote them so that students and faculty would be aware that we had these things available for them to use. So we started planning some events. The photo that you see is actually a race that we did with the Sphero balls. We actually have 2 Sphero balls, and you can see the green lit up ball there in the center. We had designed a course for the balls to go through, and it was quite popular with the students. You can see the students there in teams racing the Sphero balls. But when we decided that we were going to do this, we planned that in October we would have a big kickoff for the students, which would be zombie themed. So we had our zombie apocalypse kickoff. But before we did that, we also wanted to introduce the faculty to it. So let me continue here. So in August, at the very beginning of the semester, we held an open house that was for faculty and staff. And although it wasn't just to highlight the Tech Petting Zoo, that turned out to be probably the most popular thing that we did there, because we brought in the Sphero balls, we brought in the Kiva blocks, and the students, the faculty and staff had a lot of fun playing with these different things, and they were really interested and excited to use it with their classes and to tell students about it. So that was a really great kickoff, soft opening for our Tech Petting Zoo, which brings us to our big kickoff.
Okay, this is Regina again. So for the zombie apocalypse themed kickoff, what we decided to do was a month-long series of events. Each event would use the Tech Petting Zoo in a slightly different way and would be able to showcase a different device or devices in the petting zoo. So some of the events that you see that we held are on the flyer that you see in front of you. So I'll talk about each of those events real briefly. So we had our Director of Sustainability, Resham Shirsat, who presented a lecture on the concept of solar energy and Florida. So at the time, we had a couple of solar energy-related amendments on our ballot. So Ray was kind enough to inform students a little bit about the solar energy issues going on around us. At the time, we had hopes of adding a solar energy kit to the Tech Petting Zoo, which we haven't yet been able to acquire, but that was a teaser for that particular item. We also had a zombie walk around Lake Pamela, which is our backyard here at Valencia West Campus. And we had students come and dress like a zombie, and we used our Ampy chargers as we walked around the lake. We also partnered with the Buildings and Maintenance department for that walk. And as we walked, we also got to talk a little bit about the walking trail that's going in around the lake. Thirdly, we had one of our professors of engineering present a solar suitcase, which is a portable solar energy generator that she has done with some of her classes and been able to actually deploy several of these solar suitcases to different locations around the world, third world countries where they don't necessarily have electricity to light some of the things that they need to do, especially in medical conditions. So she has done some really interesting work with the Solar Suitcase, and she was able to bring it and show it off to some of our students. And this was a real great use of the Tech Petting Zoo in a way that got away a little bit from the circulation of devices and into one of our other goals, which was to showcase the work that our own students are doing with technology and to facilitate discussion about technology. And then also included in the Zombie Kickoff was the event that you saw the slide of earlier, which was the Sphero races. That turned out to be a really fun event for students, and we had a lot of calls to repeat that one in the future. So I'll let Nardia talk to you about another of our events.
Okay, so this one is typical of a library, but we switched it up a little to make it more technology focused. So these are our themed displays. This year, Valencia is actually celebrating our 50th anniversary, and I had the opportunity to serve on the Black History Month committee. So one of the things that we did in the Tech Petting Zoo area is that we showcased the historical contributions to STEM field by African Americans. We added 2 iPads to the area and created a YouTube playlist of 6 videos. The cool thing about a playlist is that it allows you to play selected videos on a loop. So as students were in the area, they could see the playlist, they could interact with the Kiva blocks that are always in that area. For March, we continued this activity with Women's History Month. During that month, we featured notable women in the STEM field, and we showcased related books that students could check out. Okay. One of the things that we've been talking about are our outreach events. All of those events involve some aspect of marketing. I'm actually going to talk about our email blast first. So last month we started our West Campus Library newsletter. This is going to be a monthly newsletter that we're going to send out to the entire campus. One of the cool things about our March newsletter is that it featured our digital archive, and it also featured our Tech Petting Zoo, introducing faculty and staff members to Google Cardboard and Samsung VR headset. This is how the biology professor learned about those particular resources, and that's why we were invited to the class. So the next step I'm going to talk about is social media. We've been using our social media outlets to showcase different ones of our Tech Petting Zoo tools, just sometimes as teasers to our patrons or just to intrigue them to come by and check them out. This has been going on since last fall. We've been creating different posts for hashtag Tech Tuesday. So we'll feature different library tools, but we also feature free STEM-related resources and tools that students can use. We also try to combine them with different areas such as humanities. These posts are scheduled a month in advance, and we do them every Tuesday. We've learned from statistics that our Facebook statistics that posts all need a visual in order for them to actually get the most interaction from our audience. So every one of our posts does have a visual of either the device or the resource that we're recommending. Finally, I'm going to talk about our partnerships. The rollout of our Tech Petting Zoo always centered on fostering collaboration and building partnerships. One of the successes of our collaborative efforts is our ability to expose participants to people and resources that they might otherwise never encounter. For us internally, both librarians and circulation staff members have equally been able to interact with students outside of our usual job duties. I think it's a reward that brings pride and enthusiasm to the job in the workplace. Externally, to our partners around the campus, we've been able to bring a focus to the areas of the college that often go unnoticed. So, and we are able to showcase the extensive knowledge of our ground staff, as Regina mentioned, for the Zombie Walk. Students are able to explore campus grounds, expose different colleagues to different departments, and we also get to foster an atmosphere where we can build additional partnerships. From every event, we actually make an interaction with a potential new partner. For example, we were invited to the STEM Welcome Back after our open house. Circulation staff members were able to attend and participate in the event with the librarian. Students had time to explore different tech tools while hearing stories about current research that are using those tools. For example, the MindWave. During our zombie walk, one of our students who actually wore the charger expressed his interest in horticulture, and we were able to inform him about our campus's horticulture program, which he was previously unaware of.
And I'll just add to that, this is Regina, I'll just add one last note to that. You see the bullet there, invite the marketing department. This is another kind of serendipitous thing that happened with a couple of our events where we were able to have a representative from the college's marketing department come and document our events for us, and then we got exposure on the college's Facebook page as well. So there are a couple of links to the college's Facebook page where you can see those posts if you download the slides after a presentation. So I'll talk a little bit about the assessment that we've done on this project so far. So essentially, we have looked at our circulation statistics. We have looked at our event participation and our own anecdotal reflection on that participation. And going forward, we're going to be looking at doing some additional student surveys. So I'll talk about those very briefly. First, from the circulation statistics so far, we've been able to see that we really need to do a little bit more promotion of the fact that our devices are available for checkout. Because although we have had a lot of verbal interest in the devices, we have not had a whole lot of circulation of the devices so far. Our Spheros are by far the most popular. They have had a number of checkouts. I think it was about 11 checkouts over the last 2 semesters, so still not as high as we'd like, but certainly moving toward, we can see some success with the Spheros. The other devices have not circulated as well as we would like, so we think that we can market some of those devices more directly to students in the future. And that's one reason why we would like to start with doing some additional student surveys. So we'll have students when they check out items from the library, be able to fill out a survey and let us know what they might be interested in, what technology they might like to see, and then as well as if they did check out an item from the Tech Petting Zoo, what they thought of it and how we might improve that. And lastly, our event participation has shown the most success so far. You can see our solar suitcase demo going on in the picture there. We had about 15 students attend that program. We had about the same number of students attend the Sphero races. And our lecture by our sustainability director was actually very well attended and filled the classroom that we had for that event. So our events have been very popular, and we're looking forward to doing more of those in the future. Okay, and so moving forward, what are we going to be doing from here on out? Well, first of all, expanding current services. As you saw, several of our devices are brand new to us, and so we're looking forward to putting those into circulation and allowing students a chance to work with those. And certainly we always have our eye on additional devices that we might be able to use in the future. We want to do more of showcasing student work. We really enjoyed the project that we did with the Solar Suitcase lecture, and we think that there's a lot more student work out there that we can showcase. And finally, with what I mean by breaking new ground is that in some cases we've found that some of our devices, we don't have, the college doesn't actually have procedures in place for yet. So when it came to our new quadcopter, we found that although it's under the FAA weight limits, and we didn't think we'd have to worry about that, there was in fact a new ordinance in the city of Orlando that does limit the use of drones regardless of size. So we have had to work a little bit with our college safety and security department, and we're in the process of helping to write new rules that will govern the use of drones at the college. So that's exciting work to be doing, and will certainly open up new educational opportunities for our students in the future.
And finally, we wanted just a quick shout out to all of our library team, because really this has been a team effort, and we could not have accomplished what we've accomplished without everybody's efforts. And particular shout out to our wonderful library assistants who've been very enthusiastic about this project and have been big promoters of it. And with that, let's move into, our questions. It looks like we're missing our last slide. That's okay.
So we're open to questions from our audience.
While we're waiting on people to type their questions in, what do you ever get the things out and just like play with them at the circulation desk? I mean, like, have you had informal like interactions with students and that kind of thing?
Yeah, another thing that we've done with these that we haven't actually mentioned is that we've also done a number of the student fairs at the college. So, for example, our Welcome Back Fair in fall, our Welcome Back Fair in spring, our Learning Support Fair that we usually have in the middle of the fall semester. We take those opportunities to bring the devices out and just have free interactions with students. And I should also add that that's an idea that our library assistants would like to do during the summer, is to actually schedule time to come out and just be playing with the device in the Tech Petting Zoo area and hopefully attract students over to us with that. So that's something they're actually going to be starting up within the next month or so.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So you'd mentioned this is coming so far out of your materials budget. Do you see that continuing on, or are you looking at grants and that kind of thing? I mean, as far as sustainable for the future, is this do you figure this is just part of your collection moving, forward?
Yes to both. We would love to have grants to be able to do more with the Tech Petting Zoo, but so far we've been able to purchase some of our devices using the materials budget. And I should also add that the We Are West initiative, which is how we initially got our startup funding for the infrastructure, that's something that comes along every year. So actually some of the new devices that we had, including the Cubelets and the quadcopter, we were able to purchase with this year's We Are West dollars from student development. So last year's student development dollars gave us the infrastructure, and this year's allowed us to also add some additional devices to the Tech Petting Zoo.
Thank you.
So the question is, how much has the library spent on these devices? I'm trying to think of what the total was. I think it was about $500 last year. So most of the devices that we had were not terribly expensive the first year. The Spheros cost about $150 for both, I believe. The Ampy cost about $100 for two. The Makey Makey cost about $50, so that will give you a little bit of an idea. This past year we spent a little bit more because we were able to use the We Are West dollars, so maybe in the high hundreds, I want to say, is what we spent on it, on additional devices for this year.
Well, I really appreciate, oh, here we go, one more, last question.
So April asks, is there anyone who would be able to talk more about drones once you know more about usage rules? Absolutely. We would love to update you on what happens with our usage rules as the college develops them. So far, we know that our drone is, as I mentioned a couple of times, under the weight limit for the FAA. And it looks like the ordinance in the city of Orlando, in the spirit of it, appears to be meant for to allow educational uses. But one of the things that's limiting us right now is that the ordinance calls for all drones to be registered to the user, and that's sort of a challenge for us because our drone is going to be circulated to multiple users. So we're looking at how we can sort of massage that to work for our situation.
Librarians breaking ground all the time, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, guys, I hate to cut you off, but we've got to move on. But thank you so much for presenting. This is a really cool project. I'm so glad you spread the word.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.